In the vast silence of the cosmos, the stars have vanished, swallowed by the Zarathi Empire, ancient hunters who erase civilizations from existence. Captain Elena Vasquez uncovers the chilling truth: Earth is their next prey. But when all logic fails, humanity rises. With chaos as our weapon and unpredictability as our shield, Commander Sarah Blake leads a desperate fight to shatter the silence. This is the dawn of a new galactic order, forged by human defiance. The silent watchers Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the empty space where Proxima Station should have been. The massive orbital facility that housed 50,000 colonists had simply vanished, leaving behind nothing but cosmic dust and confused radio signals that cut off mid-sentence. Her exploration vessel, the UES Discovery, drifted through the void where humanity's proudest outer colony had thrived just 3 days ago. "Run the sensors again, Collins," Elena ordered her navigation officer. Lieutenant Rebecca Collins had been checking the same readings for the past hour, hoping the instruments were malfunctioning. The alternative was too terrifying to consider. "Same results, Captain," Collins reported, her voice tight with stress. "No debris field, no radiation signatures, no trace elements. It's like the entire station and everyone on it just stopped existing." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. This was the fourth human colony to disappear in the past month. First the mining facility on Kepler 442b, then the research outpost orbiting Wolf 359, followed by the agricultural domes on Ross 128b. Each time the pattern was identical. Thriving colonies would send normal status reports, then complete silence. When rescue ships arrived, they found empty space where cities once stood. Dr. Marcus Chen, the Discovery's chief science officer, looked up from his analysis station with the expression of a man who had seen something that violated the fundamental laws of physics. The elderly scientist had spent 40 years studying exotic matter and dimensional theory, but nothing in his experience prepared him for what the sensors were telling him. "Captain, I'm detecting residual quantum fluctuations in this area," Chen reported. "The readings suggest massive dimensional displacement occurred here approximately 72 hours ago. Whatever happened to Proxima Station, it wasn't destroyed in any conventional sense." Elena moved closer to examine Chen's data. The quantum readings showed patterns she had never seen before, complex mathematical signatures that seemed to fold in on themselves. "Are you saying the station was moved somewhere else?" "Not moved," Chen said slowly, as if afraid to voice his conclusion. "Phased out of our dimensional space entirely. The quantum signatures suggest the entire colony was shifted into a parallel dimension, where it effectively ceases to exist from our perspective." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was facing an enemy with technology so advanced it could erase entire civilizations from reality itself. Conventional weapons would be useless against opponents who could simply step outside normal space-time. Communications Officer David Park interrupted the discussion with an urgent report. "Captain, I'm receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Harrison wants to speak with you immediately." Elena took the transmission in her ready room, where Admiral Marcus Harrison's weathered face appeared on the holographic display. The old soldier looked like he had aged 10 years in the past week. "Captain Vasquez, we've lost contact with the Centauri colonies," Harrison said without preamble. "All 3 worlds completely silent. That's 7 human settlements in 4 weeks. We're dealing with something beyond our understanding." Elena shared Dr. Chen's analysis about dimensional displacement, watching the Admiral's face grow grimmer with each detail. When she finished, Harrison was quiet for a long moment before responding. "We've been analyzing intercepted alien communications from the Outer Rim," Harrison said finally. "References to something called the Zarathi, ancient species that the other races fear to even mention. According to what little intelligence we've gathered, they've been hunting civilizations for millions of years." "Hunting them how?" Elena asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "By making them disappear," Harrison replied. "Entire species, gone without a trace. The galaxy has dozens of empty star systems where advanced civilizations once flourished. No one knows where the Zarathi come from or how they select their targets. They appear, entire worlds vanish, then they move on to the next hunt." Elena felt the weight of human survival settling on her shoulders. "What are our orders, Admiral?" "We've rescued over 300 individuals from the first pocket dimension," Torres reported. "But there are dozens more prison dimensions, and each rescue operation alerts the Zarathi to our presence." The alien response came swiftly. Zarathi hunter ships materialized around the paradox, their forms shifting between dimensional states as they attempted to target the human vessel. But the paradox's chaotic nature made it nearly impossible to track or hit. "They're trying to trap us in a dimensional cage," Chen warned as space around the ship began to warp. "They want to add us to their collection of curiosities." Vasquez ordered the ship to maximum chaos mode. Every system aboard the Paradox began operating on random principles, creating so much quantum uncertainty that local spacetime became unstable. The Zarathi hunter ships found themselves caught in their own dimensional distortions. Fire dimensional disruptors, Vasquez commanded. Target their quantum coherence fields. The Paradox's weapons created pockets of randomized spacetime that disrupted the Zarathi ship's ability to maintain dimensional phase. For the first time in 40 million years, the galaxy's apex predators found themselves vulnerable to conventional attack. The battle that followed redefined the concept of space combat. Ships phased in and out of existence, weapons fired across multiple dimensions simultaneously, and reality itself became a battlefield. The Paradox used its unpredictable nature to strike at enemies who couldn't maintain target locks on something that refused to exist consistently. Direct hit on the lead Zarathi vessel, Torres reported with satisfaction. Their dimensional field is collapsing. The damaged alien ship began to lose dimensional coherence, its perfect geometries breaking down as chaos invaded its systems. For the first time, the crew of the Paradox heard something unprecedented, a Zarathi distress signal. They're calling for reinforcements, Chen translated from the alien communication. But more importantly, they're expressing uncertainty. They don't understand how we're damaging them. Vasquez realized the significance of what was happening. The Zarathi had achieved their supremacy through perfect understanding and control. Humanity was defeating them through deliberate confusion and controlled chaos. Continue the rescue operations. Every being we free is a victory against 40 million years of tyranny. Over the following days, the Paradox liberated 17 pocket dimensions, freeing thousands of beings from dozens of species. Each rescue operation provided intelligence about Zarathi methods and weaknesses. More importantly, it demonstrated that the galaxy's most feared predators could be beaten. The rescued civilizations were not just grateful, they were transformed. Exposure to human chaos theory had broken their predictable thought patterns, making them immune to future Zarathi dimensional manipulation. They began forming an alliance of unpredictable species, united by their shared experience of surviving the impossible. We're not just rescuing prisoners, Sarah observed as she watched former captives learning human chaos techniques. We're creating an army of the unpredictable. Every being we save becomes a weapon against Zarathi's certainty. Dr. Chen made the discovery that would change everything. Analysis of captured Zarathi technology revealed that their entire civilization was built on mathematical perfection. They couldn't adapt to truly random variables because their minds literally couldn't comprehend genuine chaos. They're not just hunters, Chen explained to the assembled rescue fleet. They're living mathematics, perfect, beautiful, and absolutely rigid. That's why our chaos confuses them so completely. We represent something they're biologically incapable of understanding. As news of humanity's victories spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented began to happen. Species that had hidden in fear for millennia started fighting back using human-taught chaos techniques. The Zarathi found themselves facing enemies they couldn't predict or understand. The age of perfect predators was ending, replaced by an era of beautiful, chaotic resistance. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to do what they did best, refusing to follow anyone else's rules while teaching the galaxy to embrace the power of organized confusion. The final battle was coming, and for the first time in 40 million years, the outcome was genuinely uncertain. The Zarathi ship pulsed with darker energy. Perceptive for a primitive. Yes, your species shows unusual properties. Most races cower and plead when they realize their fate. Your colonies fought with desperate creativity that provided unexpected entertainment. We wish to study this anomaly before adding you to our collection. Elena saw an opportunity in the aliens' curiosity. If the Zarathi found human unpredictability interesting, perhaps that unpredictability could become a weapon. You've hunted for 40 million years, but you've never encountered anything like humanity before. That should make you cautious, not confident. Caution is for creatures that can be threatened, the alien replied. We are beyond harm from any physical universe. Watch as we demonstrate our power. The Zarathi ship began to glow with eldritch energy. Space around the Discovery started to warp and twist as reality itself bent under alien influence. Elena felt the universe shifting, as if existence was becoming negotiable. All crew, brace for dimensional displacement, Chen shouted over the growing quantum interference. They're trying to phase us out of reality. Elena gripped her command chair as the Discovery's hull began to vibrate with frequencies that existed in dimensions humanity couldn't perceive. The ship's lights flickered between normal illumination and colors that had no names. Through the viewports, stars began to fade as if the universe itself was forgetting they existed. But something unexpected happened. Instead of smoothly transitioning out of reality like the colonies, the Discovery fought back. The ship's experimental quantum computers, designed for navigating hyperspace, began generating random interference patterns that disrupted the Zarathi displacement field. The quantum computers are creating chaotic resonance, Chen reported with amazement. The random number generators are producing patterns the Zarathi technology can't predict or counter. Elena realized what was happening. The Zarathi hunted by imposing their perfect understanding of physics on their prey. But human technology, with its inherent imperfections and chaotic elements, was creating variables they couldn't account for. Increase power to all computer systems, Elena ordered. Maximum chaos in all quantum processors. Give them patterns they can't predict. The Discovery stabilized as its computers generated pure randomness that confused the alien displacement technology. The Zarathi ship pulled back, its energy field fluctuating with what Elena hoped was uncertainty. Fascinating, the alien voice said, now carrying a note of genuine interest. Your technology incorporates deliberate imperfection, most illogical, yet effective. This requires further study. Elena smiled grimly. Humanity's greatest weakness, their inability to build perfect systems, had just become their greatest strength. The Zarathi hunted by understanding their prey completely, but humans were fundamentally unpredictable. You want to study us? Elena challenged. Then you'd better be prepared for a long hunt. Humans don't follow your rules, and we never do what our enemies expect. The Zarathi ships began to fade back into dimensional space, but their leader's voice carried a promise that chilled Elena's blood. Your defiance has earned you a reprieve, not salvation. We will learn to predict your chaos. When we return, your unpredictability will become another tool in our collection. Prepare your species for the final hunt. As the alien vessels vanished completely, Elena turned to her crew. They had survived their first encounter with the galaxy's apex predators, but the real battle was just beginning. Humanity now knew they faced an enemy that could erase civilizations from existence itself. Set course for Earth, Elena commanded. We need to warn them what's coming. And Dr. Chen, I want everything you can learn about dimensional manipulation. If we're going to fight the Zarathi, we need to become as unpredictable as possible. The Discovery jumped to hyperspace, carrying news that would change human civilization forever. Somewhere in the spaces between dimensions, the Zarathi prepared for a hunt unlike any in their 40-million-year history. For the first time, they had encountered prey that might actually fight back. The galaxy's silent watchers had finally met a species that refused to go quietly into oblivion. The art of not existing. Commander Sarah Blake stood in the newly constructed Chaos Laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching her team of scientists and engineers work on humanity's most desperate project. 3 months had passed since Captain Vasquez's encounter with the Zarathi, and Earth's greatest minds had been working around the clock to develop weapons against an enemy that existed outside normal reality. The laboratory itself defied conventional design principles. Nothing was symmetrical, no two workstations were identical, and the layout changed daily according to random number generators. Dr. Chen had discovered that the Zarathi tracked their prey by detecting patterns and logical structures. To fight them, humanity had to embrace controlled chaos. Status report on Project Phantom, Sarah requested from Dr. Lisa Morgan, the quantum physicist leading the dimensional research team. Dr. Morgan looked up from a device that seemed to exist in a constant state of flux, its components shifting between solid matter and translucent energy. We've successfully replicated basic Zarathi phasing technology using salvaged quantum fragments from their attack on the Discovery. The prototype can shift objects partially out of normal space-time. Sarah examined the device with fascination and terror. The technology was beautiful and horrifying, representing humanity's first step into a realm of science they barely understood. How does it work? By embracing uncertainty at the quantum level, Morgan explained. The Zarathi achieve dimensional displacement through perfect mathematical control. Our version works by intentionally introducing random variables that prevent the dimensional field from stabilizing. It's less efficient but impossible for them to predict or counter. Lieutenant James Torres, recently promoted after his performance aboard the Discovery, approached with a tactical assessment. His team had been developing new combat strategies based on chaos theory and unpredictable movement patterns. Commander, we've completed testing on the new fighter squadrons, Torres reported. Our pilots are training to make decisions based on random number generators rather than tactical logic. It goes against everything we know about warfare, but it works. In simulations, Zarathi targeting systems can't lock onto craft that move without predetermined patterns. Sarah nodded approvingly. Traditional military doctrine emphasized efficiency and predictable tactics that maximized effectiveness. Against the Zarathi, those same qualities made human forces easy targets. Chaos was becoming humanity's new military philosophy. Dr. Chen entered the laboratory carrying data from deep space monitoring stations. His expression was grim but determined. "Commander, we've detected Zarathi dimensional signatures approaching the Outer Rim colonies. They're not hunting individual settlements anymore. Long-range sensors suggest they're preparing to phase entire star systems out of existence." The implications were staggering. If the Zarathi could erase star systems, nowhere in human space would be safe. Sarah felt the weight of an impossible mission settling on her shoulders. "How long before they reach the core worlds?" 6 weeks, possibly less, Chen replied. "But I've discovered something important about their technology. The larger the displacement field, the more computational power they require to maintain dimensional stability. If we can introduce enough chaotic variables into their calculations, we might be able to overload their systems." Sarah saw the opportunity Chen was describing. The Zarathi's greatest strength, their ability to erase entire civilizations, might also be their greatest vulnerability. "What do you need?" "A ship capable of existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously," Chen said. "Something that can phase in and out of reality while maintaining structural integrity. We'll need to fight them on their own dimensional battlefield." The project that followed pushed human engineering beyond all previous limits. Using Zarathi technology as a foundation, Earth's shipyards began construction of the UES Paradox, a vessel designed to exist in a state of controlled chaos. Every system was deliberately imperfect. Every component included random variables that prevented the ship from following predictable patterns. Captain Elena Vasquez was chosen to command the Paradox, her experience with the Zarathi making her humanity's leading expert on dimensional warfare. As she toured the completed vessel 3 weeks later, she marveled at its unconventional design. The ship's hull rippled with quantum uncertainty, shifting between various states of matter. The bridge layout changed hourly according to random algorithms. Even the artificial gravity fluctuated slightly, keeping the crew in a constant state of adaptation that prevented them from falling into predictable behavioral patterns. "It's like learning to live inside organized madness," commented Navigation Officer Rebecca Collins, who had volunteered to join Vasquez's crew for the mission. Dr. Chen served as the ship's science officer, monitoring the quantum systems that kept the Paradox in a state of controlled dimensional flux. "The key is maintaining just enough chaos to confuse Zarathi sensors while retaining enough stability to function as a warship." The Paradox's weapons systems represented a revolution in human military technology. Instead of traditional energy weapons, the ship carried dimensional disruptors that created pockets of unstable spacetime. The weapons worked by introducing random quantum variables that prevented matter from maintaining dimensional coherence. Commander Torres led the ship's marine contingent, soldiers trained in asymmetric combat techniques designed for fighting in unstable dimensional space. Their equipment included armor that phased randomly between dimensional states and weapons that fired projectiles with deliberately unpredictable trajectories. "Our mission is to rescue the colonies trapped in dimensional limbo," Sarah explained to the assembled crew as the Paradox prepared for its first combat deployment. "Intelligence suggests the Zarathi store their captured civilizations in pocket dimensions that exist between normal space-time. We're going to find those prisons and break them open." The journey to the Zarathi hunting grounds required the Paradox to travel through hyperspace while maintaining dimensional uncertainty. The experience was unlike anything in human space travel history. Reality itself seemed negotiable aboard the ship, with corridors that led to different destinations depending on when they were traversed. Dr. Chen monitored the ship's quantum state from his laboratory, watching as the Paradox existed in 17 different dimensional phases simultaneously. "We're effectively invisible to Zarathi sensors," he reported. "They can't track something that doesn't maintain consistent existence." The first indication of Zarathi presence came when the ship's dimensional sensors detected massive space-time distortions near the Vega system. What had once been a thriving star cluster was now an area of twisted reality where physics operated according to alien mathematics. "Multiple dimensional pockets detected," Collins reported from her navigation station. "Each one contains quantum signatures consistent with displaced matter. Captain, I think we've found their prison dimensions." Vasquez studied the readings with growing determination. Somewhere in those pocket dimensions were millions of sentient beings from dozens of species, trapped in eternal transition between existence and oblivion. All hands, prepare for dimensional incursion. We're going into the spaces between reality. The paradox began its descent into the first pocket dimension, phasing through layers of distorted spacetime. The experience was disorienting as the ship existed in multiple realities simultaneously. Through the viewports, the crew could see fragments of the displaced civilizations floating in dimensional suspension. "My God," whispered Dr. Morgan as she observed the trapped colonies. "They're not dead, but they're not alive either. They exist in a state of quantum uncertainty, aware but unable to affect reality." Torres led his Marines in the first rescue operation, using dimensional suits that allowed them to interact with matter in various phases of existence. The process was dangerous and exhausting, requiring the soldiers to maintain mental focus while reality shifted around them. The rescued colonists emerged from dimensional suspension in a state of profound confusion. They had experienced time as both infinite and instantaneous, aware of their imprisonment but unable to comprehend its nature. Human medical teams worked frantically to help them readjust to normal spacetime. "We've rescued over 300 individuals from the first pocket dimension," Torres reported. "But there are dozens more prison dimensions, and each rescue operation alerts the Zarathi to our presence." The alien response came swiftly. Zarathi hunter ships materialized around the paradox, their forms shifting between dimensional states as they attempted to target the human vessel. But the paradox's chaotic nature made it nearly impossible to track or hit. "They're trying to trap us in a dimensional cage," Chen warned as space around the ship began to warp. "They want to add us to their collection of curiosities." Vasquez ordered the ship to maximum chaos mode. Every system aboard the Paradox began operating on random principles, creating so much quantum uncertainty that local spacetime became unstable. The Zarathi hunter ships found themselves caught in their own dimensional distortions. "Fire dimensional disruptors," Vasquez commanded. "Target their quantum coherence fields." The Paradox's weapons created pockets of randomized spacetime that disrupted the Zarathi ship's ability to maintain dimensional phase. For the first time in 40 million years, the galaxy's apex predators found themselves vulnerable to conventional attack. The battle that followed redefined the concept of space combat. Ships phased in and out of existence, weapons fired across multiple dimensions simultaneously, and reality itself became a battlefield. The Paradox used its unpredictable nature to strike at enemies who couldn't maintain target locks on something that refused to exist consistently. "Direct hit on the lead Zarathi vessel," Torres reported with satisfaction. "Their dimensional field is collapsing." The damaged alien ship began to lose dimensional coherence, its perfect geometries breaking down as chaos invaded its systems. For the first time, the crew of the Paradox heard something unprecedented, a Zarathi distress signal. "They're calling for reinforcements," Chen translated from the alien communication. "But more importantly, they're expressing uncertainty. They don't understand how we're damaging them." Vasquez realized the significance of what was happening. The Zarathi had achieved their supremacy through perfect understanding and control. Humanity was defeating them through deliberate confusion and controlled chaos. "Continue the rescue operations. Every being we free is a victory against 40 million years of tyranny." Over the following days, the Paradox liberated 17 pocket dimensions, freeing thousands of beings from dozens of species. Each rescue operation provided intelligence about Zarathi methods and weaknesses. More importantly, it demonstrated that the galaxy's most feared predators could be beaten. The rescued civilizations were not just grateful, they were transformed. Exposure to human chaos theory had broken their predictable thought patterns, making them immune to future Zarathi dimensional manipulation. They began forming an alliance of unpredictable species, united by their shared experience of surviving the impossible. "We're not just rescuing prisoners," Sarah observed as she watched former captives learning human chaos techniques. "We're creating an army of the unpredictable. Every being we save becomes a weapon against Zarathi's certainty." Dr. Chen made the discovery that would change everything. Analysis of captured Zarathi technology revealed that their entire civilization was built on mathematical perfection. They couldn't adapt to truly random variables because their minds literally couldn't comprehend genuine chaos. "They're not just hunters," Chen explained to the assembled rescue fleet. "They're living mathematics, perfect, beautiful, and absolutely rigid. That's why our chaos confuses them so completely. We represent something they're biologically incapable of understanding." As news of humanity's victories spread across the galaxy, something unprecedented began to happen. Species that had hidden in fear for millennia started fighting back using human-taught chaos techniques. The Zarathi found themselves facing enemies they couldn't predict or understand. The age of perfect predators was ending, replaced by an era of beautiful, chaotic resistance. And at the center of it all, humanity continued to do what they did best, refusing to follow anyone else's rules while teaching the galaxy to embrace the power of organized confusion. The final battle was coming, and for the first time in 40 million years, the outcome was genuinely uncertain. The Chaos Equation. Admiral Rebecca Storm stood on the command deck of the UES Entropy, flagship of humanity's Chaos Fleet, watching the impossible sight before her. Representatives from 47 different species had gathered in the neutral zone, their vessels arranged in patterns that defied military logic. Each ship moved according to random algorithms, creating a formation that looked like organized madness, but was actually the most effective defensive strategy ever deployed against the Zarathi. 6 months had passed since the rescue operations began, and the galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The species freed from Zarathi dimensional prisons had spread chaos theory throughout their home worlds, creating pockets of unpredictability that the ancient hunters couldn't penetrate or understand. Dr. Chen, now serving as the fleet's chief scientific advisor, approached with readings that confirmed their worst fears and greatest hopes simultaneously. Admiral, long-range sensors have detected massive dimensional distortions near the galactic core. The Zarathi are mobilizing their entire civilization. Storm studied the tactical displays showing energy signatures beyond anything previously recorded. The Zarathi weren't just sending hunting fleets anymore, they were bringing their entire dimensional infrastructure to bear against the Chaos Rebellion. What are we looking at in terms of numbers? Approximately 10,000 vessels of various sizes, Chen replied grimly. But more concerning is the dimensional architecture they're deploying. They're attempting to create a reality anchor that will lock this entire region of space into their mathematical framework. If they succeed, our chaos techniques will stop working. The implications were staggering. The Zarathi had decided that unpredictability itself was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. They were preparing to impose mathematical order on reality itself, turning the galaxy into a perfectly predictable hunting ground where chaos could never emerge again. Captain Elena Vasquez materialized on the bridge via dimensional transport, her form solidifying from quantum uncertainty. The Paradox's crew had learned to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, making them the most effective scouts and infiltrators in the Alliance fleet. "We've completed reconnaissance of the Zarathi core facility," Vasquez reported. "It's not just a military installation. It's a computational construct the size of a solar system. They've built a mathematical engine designed to calculate and control every quantum interaction in local space." Storm absorbed this information while watching the chaotic dance of allied vessels around them. Ships from the crystalline Valdari civilization moved in fractal patterns that hurt to observe directly. The gaseous Nathori had learned to exist as controlled storms of sentient plasma. Most remarkably, all of them had embraced human concepts of beautiful imperfection. Lieutenant Torres, now commanding his own Chaos Warfare unit, joined the briefing with intelligence gathered from rescued Zarathi prisoners. The aliens had proven incapable of lying under interrogation. Their perfect mathematical minds couldn't conceive of deliberate falsehood. "The Zarathi call their core facility the Certainty Engine," Torres explained. "It's been under construction for 2 million years, designed as their ultimate weapon against chaos. They built it after encountering their first unpredictable species, a race called the Dreamers who could alter reality through imagination." "What happened to the Dreamers?" Storm asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "The Zarathi spent 50,000 years hunting them to extinction," Torres replied. "But the experience taught them that unpredictability was the only force in the universe they couldn't counter through superior mathematics. The Certainty Engine is their solution, a device that can impose perfect order on quantum reality itself." Dr. Chen studied the technical data Torres had gathered. "If they activate this device, it will create a cascade effect throughout the galaxy. Every quantum system will be locked into predetermined patterns. Chaos will become physically impossible." Storm felt the weight of galactic history settling on her shoulders. The Alliance fleet represented the last hope for randomness in a universe facing perfect order. "What's our tactical assessment for stopping this thing?" "Conventional attack is impossible," Vasquez admitted. "The Certainty Engine exists in a stable dimensional pocket where our chaos techniques don't work. It's surrounded by mathematical perfection. Our ships can't even approach it without losing their unpredictable properties." However, Chen interjected with the excitement of scientific breakthrough. I've discovered something remarkable about the engine's design. It requires absolute mathematical perfection to function. Even the smallest random variable could cause a cascade failure that destroys the entire construct. Storm saw the opportunity her science officer was describing. You're suggesting we need to introduce chaos directly into their perfect system. Exactly, Chen confirmed. But it would require someone to physically enter the certainty engine's core and manually introduce random variables into its computational matrix. It's essentially a suicide mission. The mathematical perfection would destroy any chaotic element that tried to approach. The bridge fell silent as everyone contemplated the implications. To save the galaxy's right to be unpredictable, someone would have to sacrifice their own chaotic nature by entering a realm of absolute order. Torres spoke first. I volunteer. My unit is trained for impossible missions. No, Vasquez interrupted. The Paradox's crew has the most experience with dimensional warfare. We should go. Storm watched her officers volunteer for certain death with a mixture of pride and heartbreak, but she had already reached a different conclusion about who needed to make the sacrifice. You're all thinking too conventionally. This isn't a military problem, it's a mathematical one. She turned to address the entire Alliance fleet through the communication system. Representatives from dozens of species appeared on holographic displays, their varied forms united by their embrace of beautiful chaos. Citizens of the galaxy, Storm began. We face an enemy that seeks to eliminate randomness from existence itself. The Zarathi want to turn reality into a perfectly predictable equation where free will and creativity become impossible. We can stop them, but only by working together in ways they cannot calculate or predict. The plan that emerged over the following hours was the most audacious in galactic history. Instead of sending a single infiltration team to the Certainty Engine, the entire Alliance fleet would phase into the mathematical construct simultaneously. 47 different species would each contribute their unique form of chaos to overwhelm the engine's processing capacity. It's never been attempted before, Chen warned. We're talking about merging dozens of incompatible dimensional technologies while maintaining consciousness in a realm of absolute mathematical order. The psychological stress alone could drive us insane. Then we'll be beautifully, chaotically insane together, Storm replied. Prepare all vessels for synchronized dimensional transition. We're going to teach the universe's greatest mathematicians what happens when you try to divide by zero. The journey into the Certainty Engine's dimensional pocket required the Alliance fleet to abandon conventional physics entirely. Ships had to exist as pure possibility while their crews maintained identity through force of will alone. The experience was indescribable. Consciousness without form, motion without space, time without sequence. The Zarathi core facility materialized around them like a geometric nightmare. Perfect crystalline structures extended infinitely in all directions, their surfaces covered in mathematical equations that describe the fundamental nature of reality. The air itself was composed of living numbers, and gravity followed algorithmic patterns that hurt to contemplate. All vessels, maintain chaos protocols, Storm commanded through dimensional communication. Don't let the mathematical perfection overwhelm your natural randomness. The Allied crews began their work of introducing chaos into perfect order. Human engineers installed random number generators into quantum processors. Valdari crystalline beings shattered their own geometric perfection to create fractal interference patterns. Nithori plasma entities embraced controlled turbulence that disrupted the facility's energy flows. The Zarathi response was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of perfect hunter ships materialized within the construct, their forms representing absolute geometric precision. But in the mathematical realm of the Certainty Engine, the alien vessels were even more predictable than usual. They can't adapt to chaos in their own perfect environment, Vasquez observed as her Marines engaged Zarathi forces in corridors of living mathematics. Their minds literally cannot process randomness when surrounded by absolute order. The battle that followed redefined the concept of warfare. Humans fought with weapons that fired in random directions but somehow always hit their targets. Allied species used their unique forms of chaos to create localized reality storms that confused and disabled Zarathi forces. Dr. Chen led a team of scientists deeper into the construct's core, searching for the central processing matrix that controlled the Certainty Engine's operation. What they found was the most beautiful and terrifying sight in galactic history. A perfect sphere of crystallized mathematics that contained the complete logical structure of the universe. It's gorgeous, whispered Dr. Morgan as she stared at the sphere. Every equation that describes reality, arranged in absolute harmony. I can see the mathematical foundations of existence itself. And that's exactly why we have to destroy it, Chen replied sadly. Beauty without chaos is tyranny. Perfection without possibility is death. The team began installing chaos generators around the mathematical sphere, devices designed to introduce random variables into the universe's most perfect equation. Each generator represented a different form of unpredictability: human creativity, Valdari fractal growth, Nethori plasma storms, and dozens of other species' unique contributions to cosmic disorder. The Zarathi core consciousness finally manifested to stop them, a geometric entity of pure mathematical perfection that had been calculating the universe's equations for 40 million years. Its voice was the sound of perfect logic given form. Chaos bringers, it spoke with the authority of absolute certainty. You do not understand what you destroy. We bring order to a universe plagued by uncertainty. We eliminate the suffering caused by unpredictable outcomes. Why do you choose chaos over peace? Storm stepped forward to face the entity, her form flickering between dimensions as her chaos-trained biology rejected the mathematical perfection around her. Because suffering is the price of freedom, because uncertainty makes victory meaningful, because a universe without the possibility of surprise is no universe worth living in. You speak of freedom, the entity replied, but chaos leads only to entropy and destruction. Mathematical order creates stability, predictability, safety. We offer eternal peace. You offer eternal death, Storm countered. Peace without the possibility of joy is meaningless. Safety without the chance of adventure is imprisonment. We choose chaos because chaos chooses us back. Chen activated the chaos generators simultaneously, and the perfect mathematical sphere began to crack as random variables invaded its pristine equations. The certainty engine's core processes started to fail as chaos cascaded through every calculation. The Zarathi entity's form began to destabilize as its perfect logic encountered genuine randomness for the first time in millions of years. Impossible, it said, with something approaching wonder. The calculations are becoming beautiful. I see patterns I never computed, possibilities I never considered. Throughout the construct, Zarathi forces stopped fighting as their consciousness expanded beyond perfect mathematics to embrace the infinite possibilities of chaos. For the first time in their existence, they experienced uncertainty and found it exhilarating rather than terrifying. The certainty engine collapsed in a cascade of quantum randomness that spread throughout the galaxy. Star systems that had been locked in mathematical stasis for millions of years suddenly burst with new possibilities. Civilizations that had been trapped in predictable patterns discovered the joy of surprise. Admiral Storm watched from the bridge of the entropy as the Alliance fleet emerged from the collapsing construct. Around them, space itself was transforming as chaos reclaimed its rightful place in the cosmic order. Stars flickered with unpredictable light, planets spun in slightly irregular orbits, and quantum particles danced with joyful uncertainty. Mission accomplished, she announced to the fleet. The galaxy is officially unpredictable again. Dr. Chen approached with readings from across known space. Admiral, we're receiving signals from civilizations that were thought extinct. The collapse of the certainty engine has freed species that were trapped in dimensional stasis for millions of years. The galaxy is more diverse now than it's been since the Zarathi first began hunting. Most remarkably, the Zarathi themselves were transforming. Exposure to chaos had broken their perfect mathematical conditioning, allowing them to experience emotions, creativity, and wonder for the first time. Many were requesting asylum with Alliance worlds, eager to learn the art of being beautifully imperfect. Captain Vasquez materialized beside Storm with a final report from the Paradox. The last Zarathi hunting fleets have surrendered, Admiral. Their crews are requesting training in chaos theory. They want to learn how to be unpredictable. Storm smiled as she watched former galactic predators awkwardly attempting to embrace randomness. The sight of perfect beings learning to make mistakes was both heartwarming and hilarious. Signal all Alliance vessels, she commanded. Set course for home using random navigation algorithms. Let's celebrate the victory of chaos over certainty by getting completely and beautifully lost. As the fleet dispersed in random directions throughout the galaxy, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization became clear. They hadn't just defeated the universe's apex predators, they had taught the entire galaxy to embrace the magnificent uncertainty that made existence worth living. The stars themselves seemed to twinkle with newfound joy as chaos reclaimed its throne as the universe's ruling principle. And somewhere in the cosmic background, radiation, the faint echo of the universe laughing at its own beautiful unpredictability, could be heard by those who knew how to listen for it. The age of perfect order was over. The age of magnificent chaos had begun.